NZ Central Muscle Cars heading out onto the racetrack. A full field of 26 will face the starter. For this race, it is a reverse grid handicap start, so the faster Class 1 drivers will be starting from towards the rear of the field. Joined in commentary by Craig Denyer. And Craig, I think we worked it out that over the 26 cars, we're looking at about 16,000 horsepower.
Yeah, this should be 8 laps of fun, shouldn't it? It really, really should. You've got Ford Mustang, you've got Holden Tiranas in there, Holden Commodores, a Valiant Charger of all things, a magnificent looking Valiant Charger too. Tirana 8NX L34 lookalike, so fantastic bunch of cars, a great bunch of blokes, and some of the tremendous racing we see here in New Zealand.
Yeah, we love the big bangers, and it is a fantastic lineup. So much going on right through this field. Angus Faulk debuting his brand new Ford this weekend.
So tell us about that. It's a beautiful looking car. I mean, it's almost concourse condition, that 1970 Mustang Fastback.
Can't miss it. Black and chrome gold. It is a spectacular looking race car, and it has hit the track for the first time this weekend at Hampton Downs.
There it is on screen at the moment, and you're right, sensational. 1970 Mustang Fastback with pretty much a NASCAR driveline.
Yeah, a Ford Fusion NASCAR was the donator for the driveline and engine combination through that car, but it is spectacular. If you get an opportunity to have a look up at it at close, take it, because it is a piece of fabrication genius.
Just lining up the rears to warm up the tyres as they come up to start this race.
Just look at this lineup. It is sensational. So standing start, they'll be led away by the New Zealand flag, and they'll go off in groups and different speed groups. So based on the times from qualifying, the final race of the weekend is a heads up, fastest to the front. But this is a bit of fun because the quicker guys have to come through traffic. If they get a safety car, it does help the guys at the back. The guys at the front, no safety cars. We don't want a safety car.
5 seconds for the race start. Away they go. Flag drops. And the beautiful little white Tirana heads off first. Commodore following him through down into Pirelli corner. Car 26 leading the field.
Sean Fowler will be the first car away down through turn number 1 in dry conditions, chased by Greg Running in the Commodore. Next group away, might be too far away, but you'll see the quicker guys, the likes of the Greg Honors, the Dean Perkins, the Shane Wixtons, probably giving away a good 40 to 50 seconds at least with the race start. Here's our next group away, and it's Paul Bowden in the number 68 Camaro and Lance Midgley in the 360 Ford Falcon.
Handicaps based on lap times?
Yep, all based on lap times. We have 2 different categories within the NZ Muscle Cars. The red windscreen banners denote the Class 1 cars, the more wild of the NZ Muscle Cars. The blue, like we see there with Bruce Kett with the Camaro on the windscreen, is the Class 2. So they don't quite have the horsepower or the suspension sort of upgrades that the Class 1s do. So the next group of cars away, these are some of the quicker cars. Andrew Sinclair in the Chickadee replica, Clark Hopkins down the inside in that beautiful Tirana hatchback. There's Ross Graham going through. Rick Van Sweat, the number 67 Camaro. This is the number 4.
And he's
Colin Meadows, run a little bit wide there.
Found it pretty hard to stop there. Angus Faulk will start pretty much from the back of the field in that sensational new Mustang. He's away now.
And Shane Wixton in the world's fastest HQ.
This is great stuff.
That's not something you're going to see an awful lot other than probably in New Zealand. An HQ being chased by probably one of the most beautiful Mustangs currently in the world of motorsport.
I think the last HQ I saw race seriously was back at in the Bathurst 1000 in the days of Ron Dixon racing a HQ of all things.
All right, so Dean Perkins with a little brake lock-up. He's racing there with John Midgley. Those two will be shadowing each other through traffic. So that handicap is quite big for these guys. They've got to make up a lot of ground. And even further back, you've got Wixton and Angus Faulk.
This looks like a pretty intense battle between these two.
Well, if Foggy thinks that Shane maybe is a little bit quicker, that he might try and shadow him through rather than try and fight with him and tie each other up, because if they start doing that, that'll cost them time. And because the delay is so much different from those front runners, like you're looking at lap times that are probably 11 to 12 seconds a lap slower than these quicker guys at the tail of the field trying to work their way through traffic. And it's a big field of 26 cars.
What's the capacity of the HQ, the 73?
So the HQ started life as an NASCAR engine, 358 cubic inches, but it's been leaned on by Craig Hine and the engine dynamics as Foggy goes down the inside. Well, that just answered that question. Foggy's definitely got some express pace. It's out up over 400 cubic inches, so it is a serious piece of kit. And again, approaching that 800 horsepower range. Foggy's is still the original 358 cubic inches of Ford. the Roush Yates power out of a Ford Fusion NASCAR, and you're probably looking at around that sort of 720, 730 plus mark for that race car.
Top 5, Sean Fowler continues to lead from Greg running, Paul Bowden, Lance Midgley and Bruce Catt rounding out the 5.
Oh, look at this group. We're 3 wide down through turn number 2. 2 Tiranas side by side. Clark Hopkins getting through some of that early traffic. And that beautiful grey A9X going by Ross Graham in the orange example. Rick Van Sweat's in there in the number 67. And Rick's made the big step up in the last couple of seasons coming from Mini 7 racing.
And that's just a great snapshot of all the different sorts of cars that have come from so many different eras in touring car racing. 60s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah, we're into the 80s. With the VKs, you're probably into the early to mid-80s, sort of 1983, 1984 at maximum. That's probably where the cutoff is from a body shell point of view. Andrew Sinclair with a run in that fantastic Chickadee replica. Actually got a chance to speak to Alan Grice, who won Bathurst in the original version of that car going back about 3 weeks ago at Queensland Raceway.
Well, the car is still owned by Graham Bailey, who built the car and funded that entire Chickadee project, which, of course, was pretty much the last privateer effort to truly win the Bathurst 1000, which was a tremendous day for Bailey and Grice.
Another replica out there is the Red Dawson Camaro. That's Grant Dalton, the boss of Team New Zealand in the America's Cup. And that car is fierce, and that's well up over 800 horsepower.
So this is round 1 of the Central Muscle Car Series.
First round of the NZ Central Muscle Cars this weekend, presented by Game Over. So it is the first round of a season-long championship, one of the star classes in New Zealand motorsport. Oh, Ross Graham's got a problem. Actually flashed the headlights on there for a moment, maybe trying to warn the guys around him that he had an issue, but that's definitely lost power going up the hill. Looking to trying to get into pit lane, and that I think he's going to get the opportunity to do, and it won't bring out the safety car. There's Dean Perkins, the wild man, not too far away from home, just north of us in Pukekohe. That car's spent more time with his family than I think most of his own kids. Started life as a traffic cop car.
2 laps down.
Foggy's got problems. Angus Faulk slowing in the J.A. Russell Ford.
Now, did have power steering problems, we believe, in qualifying. So whether it's been a return to form of that, but what a beautiful looking car. I mean, full credit to the team for turning it out so spectacularly.
Unfortunately, it's heading to pit lane for this race with the Central Muscle Cars. Greg Honor, another one to watch in the 429 Ford Mustang. That doesn't tell you how many cubic inches. It's just a race number that Greg came up with, but it's rather appropriate for a Boss Mustang of that shape. Greg Honor is currently in the 14th position, so he's made some good ground in the early laps of this handicap reverse grid.
Sean Fowler continues to lead from Paul Bowden, Lance Midgley, Bruce Kent, Colin Meadows, Andrew Turner. P7 is Cam Crawford, then back to Clark Hopkins, Shane Johnson and Rick Van Sweat in P10 at the moment. So 3 laps down, 3 laps of 8.
Sean Fowler's doing 152s out the front. The big boys are doing 41s. Dean Perkins and John Midgley both in the 141 threes. Just trying to see where Shane Wigston is. 42.7 for Shane Wigston, just in back a shot. And I think that was Tony Galbraith just rejoining the track at the Porsche Dipper as these cars are working their way out of turn number 10, and that fast run up the hill, probably in the sort of region of 240 plus kilometres an hour, and probably maybe even a little bit quicker than that as we're 3 wide on the front straight and past the apartments.
Now the Mustang down the inside of the XA 2-door Falcon. Camaro goes with him.
That's Cam Crawford in the big number 30 Falcon, one of my favourite shaped race cars.
Yeah.
So you can see some of the speed differences between the faster Class 1 cars, some of the slower Class 1 cars and the Class 2s. So 2 championships within one.
What sort of money to build a front-running car?
Oh, it's a tough one to ask. If you ask any of the teams what they cost to build, they probably won't tell you. But, I mean, some of these race cars would comfortably be in the $150,000 plus range.
Most of them are probably trying to hide the numbers from their wives.
I would suggest so too. But, yeah, it would vary up and down the field. But, you know, the cost of building one of these types of cars is probably not an awful lot different to building a new one, to be perfectly honest.
And in terms of control tyres, you say, there's been a problem with the Camaro, the number 4 car.
Place.
Colin Meadows.
Yeah, Meadows is parked up. Hopefully the guys on behind see him. Dean Hansen took avoiding action there, so that is an awkward place to be. Oh, Dwayne Ingley slams into the back of it. I think he was unsighted.
That's a big hit too.
That's definitely going to bring out the safety car. Dwayne Ingley was unsighted and slammed into the back of the stranded Camaro. So Meadows, that was a fair way up the field, and there was a lot of traffic to come through. Disappointing for Dwayne Ingley in what was previously a beautiful Dodge.
That would be every race car's driver's nightmare, wouldn't it? Sitting there, waiting for the field to come through and thinking, I've made it, and then bang, unsighted, and a lot of damage too to the rear end of that Camaro. They've red flagged the event. Let's have a look at the replay.
Yeah, just reacted a little bit late, just slammed into the back of the Camaro, and that isn't a substantial amount of damage to the back of that car. Here's another angle.
Just caught it on the rear quarter.
Got it right in the B pillar of the Dodge. So
this is what caused it.
Meadows has spun. Now,
clearly the car's stalled and he hasn't been able to fire it up, so he's been stuck there.
Bruce Kent did a good job early to get around him first, unable to fire the car up, and there were probably a good 12 to 15 cars that managed to get by, but Dwayne Ingley, the once beautiful Mopar, slams into the back of the Camaro, and it is game over.
Tony Quinn, Fast and the Furious, how's this all work, mate?
Well, it's definitely fast and it's furious. There you are. It was just an idea to try and make the racing a bit more exciting for everybody, the competitors and anybody that's watching it. Basically, they get a standing start, a couple of laps, safety car, restart, and then it's all over. And it's not about who wins, it's not about who's got the fastest car. Once you enter, for every race you enter, you get an entry in the draw to win the American Camaro thing. So the odds are very, very high. So if you want to win a Camaro, this is where you're going to do it.
First time on the racetrack for the Four Guys Autobahn Fast and Furious concept.
Yeah, this is kind of Tony Quinn's version of 2020 cricket or thereabouts. It's a new concept. He's trialling here at Hampton Downs for the first time. Effectively, the race is split into 2 lots of 3 laps. A safety car is called after the 3rd lap. The field is shuffled around again, and away we go for the final 3 laps to the flag. This little Mark 1 Escort, away he goes with the flared guards, reminiscent of the twin-cam cars that came from that era. Honda Civic alongside, all sorts of cars. A Mitsubishi Evo in there. You've got an MG in there as well. Renault Megane. And
Tony Quinn in a road-going M650S McLaren, but they'll all be looking in their mirrors for approximately 1,000 horsepower of Crawford Daytona prototype with Glenn Smith, and he's already working his way through the midfield.
So the field is Proctor, Eddie, Lewis, Sainz, Quinn, Kern, Reutemann, Mortimer, Hannaford, Smith, Andrew Waite and John Ryan.
So it's a 3-lap sprint, then the safety car will close the field back up, and then they have another go at it. So, you know, someone doesn't have the ability to run away and hide, and you know, that's the race game over. You know, with Glenn Smith out there, that's, you know, that's like taking a sledgehammer to a, you know, to everything else out there. It's so much faster than what we've got out there through the rest of the field. But you know, everyone in this lineup has the opportunity to win this Camaro thanks to Four Guys Autobahn, which is just unreal.
I just love the fact that Tony Quinn's car still got its registration plates on.
Yeah, as I said, she's definitely a road-going McLaren 650, that one. It'll be one of the ride cars for the supercar experience here at Hampton Downs, I would imagine. So there's Quinny, head down over the wheel. It'll still be a very, very quick car in some of these purpose-built race cars. So if you hold a Motorsport New Zealand licence and you've got a race car, you can enter the series.
So Smith has gone to the lead. Proctor back to P2, then Mortimer, Reutemann, and then Tony Quinn now into the top 6-2 in the McLaren.
So that's Brian Sainz. It's the 2-litre turbo Seat Leon Super Cupra. 2012 that car was made. And there's the diversity through the field. You got Hans Reutemann there in the little Nissan. And that's a very, very quick car, which is pretty cool. Warwick Mortimer's just up ahead in one of the front-running class cars in the Castrol BMW series. That runs in the open class. Beautiful sounding car with the bellowing V8, high RPM. He's chasing down Clark Proctor. And it's not Clark Proctor's regular Targa car, which is a Nissan V6 turbo-powered example. This is, I don't know if it's a VDA powered Mark 1, but it's one of those sort of classic looking Mark 1s with the Mexico flares on it, and it's a pretty quick little race car in its own right.
And they're bringing about $65,000 to $70,000 now if you want to try and buy one at auction or on the open market. Checkered flag, so the end of
the first segment. Yeah, the first segment. So we'll line them back up again behind the safety car. Hans Reutemann got a pretty good start on the outside in the Nissan, and he's going to go around the outside of Mortimer, and maybe Clark Proctor. He's going to be pretty brave to try and live out there, but there's probably a little bit more aero with the Nissan than the little Mark 1 Escort's got.
Yeah, he's pretty well positioned here, I think, as we head down towards turn 2 for an inside run, which he's done. The BMW going with him, car 97. That's Warwick Mortimer.
Yeah, based up in Matakana, just north of Auckland, out towards Walkworth, out on the coast. The Mortimers build their own race cars. They've been long-time competitors in the BMW series here in New Zealand.
So Tony Quinn just got wrapped up in his McLaren road car by a Seat. So as they fight their way through the field.
It's in its infancy here at the moment, as Tony Quinn, he'll be waving to Mike Eadie. These two have spent a little bit of time together with various driver training and that around New Zealand. Mike Eadie, a very, very good driver trainer, has written a book on all of New Zealand's motor racing circuits and how to get through each of the corners and the best lap, sort of, you know, so he's pretty accomplished. All you need to do is enter the second round, as I said, December 9th, and that will be part of Mad Mike's next event, the Big Bash here at Hampton Downs Motorsport Park. And as I said, it puts you in with an entry to win that $50,000 Camaro. It's a 6.2 litre monster, all in white. It is a spectacular looking road car.
And it's on display here at Hampton Downs this weekend as Glenn Smith continues to lead. So 1:29.3 his best time, 1:35.6 last time around, and they're on the last lap.
See that rear wing coming up under brakes with the McLaren, with Tony Quinn there, all electronically activated. As soon as you hit the brake pedal, that activates that rear wing to help with the braking. There is Glenn Smith up over the top of the crest on the approach to the Porsche Dipper.
Amazing how much elevation changes there. I mean,
here is Glenn Smith to the line. Can he go quicker? 1:29.6, so no, he disappoints us. A 28.5 though is a stunning lap, and that just highlights part of what you can sort of be out there doing as part of the Four Guys Autobarn fast and furious format. Reutemann will finish second, and Warwick Mortimer will cross the line in third. So it's round number 2 on December 9th back here at Hampton Downs. And just by entering, you could win a Chev Camaro thanks to Four Guys Autobarn.
One of the fans' favourite categories here this weekend is definitely Central Muscle Cars. They've put on an amazing display here at Hampton Downs for the Laser Plumbing Electrical 500. But what we're really looking forward to is back to Bathurst next year.
Back to Bathurst. What could be better? This is as good as it gets for the fans, I think. And to have it right here in New Zealand, you know, with, I'm sure, a great lineup of cars. Central Muscle Cars will be there, of course, with a lot of the era perfect cars, you know, when things were great, I suppose. You know, the Moff era, the Brock era, the Johnsons and all of that.
You're going to see the era of cars that actually ran it first. Peter Brock ran an A9X Tirana, much like this.
It's going to have cars coming over from Australia, New Zealand, period cars, replica cars. Some of these Central Muscle cars obviously will be here because our class is running, so it'll be a cool mix of cars to see, you know, cars brought out of the shed that haven't run for a while.
I think the reason people like these cars is because they're all different. They all make different noises, they're different shapes, different colours, but I think it's the noise that gets people here. It's just the sheer grunt.
They can relate to them because they either had them or their parents had them, and they're just cool cars. Everybody just seems to love them. They sound great and they're fast.
They're quite raw, and you've got a lot of power and a relatively low grip tyre, and they're exciting to drive and watch. Like, you see them sliding around, locking brakes.
Back to Bathurst Festival. It's a great idea, great concept, and I think the crowds will love it. There'll be plenty of the muscle cars here, and it'll be a great event.
Back on track with the NZ Central Muscle Cars behind the safety car, and the reason for the safety car deployment, in fact there was a red flag first, was this incident. Colin Meadows spinning the Camaro, and he was a fair way up the field, a few of the early cars avoiding action, but unfortunately for Dwayne Ingley, slams into the back of the Camaro. Some different views here, and it is a huge impact. Thankfully both drivers A-OK. Meadows extracting himself out of that beaten up Camaro. So the race has been shortened. We're hearing just one more lap, a flying lap for the NZ Muscle Cars. The safety car lights will be out. This will help some of the quicker guys from further back in the field, but unfortunately an incident we don't need to see, but we'll get back racing with the Central Muscle Cars. They will be getting away now, and some pretty big gaps through this field.
It'll be a one-lap flyer. Sean Fowler leads from Paul Bowden, Lance Midgley, Bruce Kent, Andrew Turner, Clark Hopkins. Rick Van Sweet goes through. Cam Crawford, Grant Dalton, they're your top 10.
Paul Bowden through to the lead. Keep an eye on Hopkins. That's one of the Class 1 cars just in back of shot. He's in the 6th position. Behind him was Greg Honor, but Honor was not very close off the back of the Hopkins Tirana off this restart. So Hopkins down the inside of Andrew Turner in the Brock replica, in behind Bruce Kett in the Coppins replica Camaro. Up into fourth goes Hopkins.
Camaro bolting away as we get down to these final few corners here at Hampton Downs. Massive array of all different sorts of classic muscle cars from the 60s and 70s. The sensational Camaro, the Rod Coppins lookalike car, the sensational XT Falcon number 360.
Vance Midgley in the number 360, but it's Paul Bowden out front. It's actually skipped away on this last lap. The last lap board was shown as they got the restart. Hopkins up into third in the Tirana now.
Yeah, big move in there under brakes. The Brock lookalike too, also now putting pressure on the Camaro.
All right, as they head back down onto the existing part of the racetrack through the high full hairpin.
Greg Honor in 429 around the outside.
Yeah, he's going to be looking possibly for a top three, maybe a top four. He's still trying to work with traffic as they get on the brakes down towards the Porsche Dipper. Clark Hopkins in third. Can he get to Paul Bowden out in front? Wellington's Paul Bowden in the Camaro.
Side by side, Camaro and Ford Mustang. This is the game over. Central Muscle Cars. Final lap here at Hampton Downs.
Hopkins couldn't get the run from the Porsche Dipper out of turn number 10. He'll get the run up the hill, probably a little bit more horsepower than the Falcon ahead, but it's going to be Paul Bowden that'll take the victory in the Camaro.
Fairly tight for second.
It's going to be tight for second. Hopkins on the inside of the line. It will be the Tirana, but the Camaro takes the victory. Wellington's Paul Bowden with the win for the Central Muscle Cars, brought to you by NZ and Game Over. Bruce Kett, he'll be one of the leading Class 2 cars home, but it's Bowden, Hopkins, Midgley, Honor, Bruce Kett in fifth, and it will be Kett the first of the Class 2s across the line. An action-packed race. Here are the results. Paul Bowden with the victory, just 0.7 of a second ahead of Clark Hopkins. Lance Midgley in third, followed by Greg Honor, Bruce Kett, the first of the Class 2s, Andrew Turner, Grant Dalton, Rick Van Sweat, John Midgley, and the top 10 completed by Dean Perkins.